Good morning, dear students. Today we are going to start the excretory products and their elimination. Okay, what is the definition of excretion means? It is elimination of nitrogenous waste materials. What are the nitrogenous waste materials like ammonia, urea, uric acid, etc. from the body fluids is called as excretion. Then what is the need for excretion means? Need for excretion is for maintaining homeostasis and maintaining osmoregulation. Homeostasis means maintaining constant internal environment. Then osmoregulation means maintaining salt and water balance in the body fluids is called as osmoregulation. Okay, why we require homeostasis and osmoregulation means for the purpose of metabolism. So on the basis of osmoregulation, animals are either osmoconformers or osmoregulators. What are osmoconformers? Osmoconformers means they maintain their body fluids concentration depending upon the surrounding environment. They are called as osmoconformers. So what are the examples of osmoconformers means? All marine invertebrates and marine vertebrates are the example of osmoconformers. Then what are osmoregulators means? Irrespective of their surrounding environment, these animals can maintain constant osmotic concentration in their body fluids. The best example is Hilsa. Hilsa is a marine fish, but it migrates to the freshwater for spawning. Spawning means to lay the eggs. So both osmoregulation and excretion helps in attaining homeostasis. Then if we see due to metabolic activity, the animals will accumulate ammonia, urea, uric acid, carbon dioxide and ions like sodium, potassium, chloride, sulfates and phosphates. Then if we see the excretory products are ammonia, urea and uric acid. Ammonia is highly toxic and require more water for elimination. And urea is less toxic when compared to ammonia, and uric acid is least toxic when compared to ammonia and urea and require very little amount of water or no water for its elimination. Right, let us go for the ammonotelism. So what is meant by ammonotelism is the animals which excrete ammonia or the process of excretion of ammonia is called as ammonotelism and animals are called as ammonotelic. So how this ammonia is excreted means excess of proteins, then amino acids undergoes oxidative deamination. So this one is amino acids. Excess of proteins and amino acids undergoes oxidative deamination to form ammonia in liver. The process of removal of ammonia group from the amino acids is called as deamination. So deamination occurs where? In the liver. And ammonia is highly soluble in water. So generally, the animals which excrete ammonia are aquatic because for the excretion of ammonia, they require large amount of water. For example, you take the fishes. Fishes excrete ammonia in the form of ammonium ion through the gills. Another example, if you take aquatic amphibians, aquatic insects, protozoans, sponges, cnidarians, and some freshwater fishes also excrete ammonia. So if you see the 1 gram of ammonia requires 300 to 350 ml of water for its elimination. So ammonia is highly toxic and requires more water for its elimination. Ureotelism. The animals which excrete urea as excretory product is called as ureotelism. The animals are called as ureotelic. Ammonia is converted into urea in the liver by ornithine cycle. So this ornithine cycle is very, very important. Ornithine cycle occurs in the liver. What is the definition of ornithine cycle? Means conversion of ammonia into urea in the liver is called as is occurred by ornithine cycle. So 1 gram of urea requires 50 ml of water for its elimination. Animals which excrete urea, we can see earthworm, mammals, marine fishes, terrestrial amphibians, and aquatic reptiles. Ureotelism. Ureotelism means excretion of uric acid as nitrogenous waste material is called as ureotelism. Animals which excrete uric acid are called as ureotelic. So how this uric acid is excreted means uric acid is excreted as semi-solid paste or it is excreted as pellets. Pellets means small solid structures, just like small stones. 1 gram of uric acid requires 10 ml of water. Then which animals excrete uric acid? The animals which excrete uric acid are insects, reptiles, and birds. And in mollusca, the land snail excrete uric acid. So very important point. Animals which are excreting uric acid includes insects, reptiles, and birds. They have to remember the examples of reptiles, examples of birds, and also examples of insects. The question will be given by asking the examples only. Right? Then how this nitrogenous waste is formed? So nucleic acid are converted into nitrogen bases and proteins are converted into amino acid. So these nitrogen bases and amino acid form the amino group. From this amino group, ammonia, urea, and uric acid are formed. Right? So excretory organs and in different animals and examples. Generally, if we take Porifera, Cnidaria, Ctenophora, and Echinodermata, there are no special excretory organs. The excretion of substances occurs through their general body surface. Similarly, if you take the Cephalochordata, example is Amphioxus. In these animals, the protonephridia or solenocytes are the excretory organs. Then flame cells are the excretory organs in Platyhelminthes. Renity gland is the excretory organ in nematodes, especially in roundworms. Nephridia are the excretory organs in earthworm. Coxal glands are the excretory organs in scorpions. Green glands are the excretory organs in crustaceans like prawns, balanus, crabs, etc. Then Malphizian tubules are excretory organs in Jullus. Jullus is a centipede. Scolopendra, it is a millipede, and insects. So all these belongs to the phylum Arthropoda. Metanephric kidney are organs of Bojanus or Keber's organs are the excretory organs in Phyla globosa. Phyla belongs to mollusca of class Gastropoda. Okay. Then proboscis gland. It is the excretory organ in Hemichordata. Example is Belanoglossus. Otherwise, it is also called as Belanoglossus. Now let us see excretory organs in chordates. If you see in chordates, in urochordates, the excretory glands, excretory organs are neural glands. Example is Acidia. In cephalochordates, protonephridia with solenocytes. Example is Amphioxus. In cyclostome, fishes and amphibians, mesonephric kidney. In reptiles, birds and mammals, metanephric kidney. Right? So let us continue the human excretory system. So human excretory system consists of a pair of kidneys, a pair of ureters, urinary bladder, and urethra. Study of kidneys and its disorders is called as nephrology. Then study of excretory system and male reproductive system together called as urology. Okay, let us see kidneys. So in human beings, kidneys are one pair, bean-shaped structures which are reddish brown in color. Then if we take the size of the kidneys are 10 to 12 centimeters in length, 5 to 7 centimeters in width, 2 to 3 centimeters in thickness, and the weight is 120 to 170 grams, okay, per kidney. So where they are present? They are present on either side of the vertebral column. So you can see this is the vertebral column in between the last thoracic and the third lumbar vertebrae. So last thoracic means thoracic vertebrae are 12 and lumbar vertebrae are 5. So this is the first lumbar vertebrae, L1 I have represented here, L2 is the second one, L3 is the third one, and this one is the 12th, the T12. T12 means last thoracic vertebrae. So they are present on either side of the vertebral column in between last thoracic vertebrae and third lumbar vertebrae. So very important question, that one. And kidneys are retroperitoneal because the ventral surface of kidney is lined by peritoneum. Peritoneum means nothing but it is the mesothelium. So if you see, this is the body wall. So back of the body. So this one is the hip region. Above the hip region, the kidneys are attached to the dorsal abdominal body wall. And the ventral surface of kidneys is surrounded by or lined by a blue color one. This is called as peritoneum. So if the ventral surface of kidney is lined by peritoneum, then we call that one as retroperitoneal organs. So let us see. Then if you see the outer surface of kidney, the outer surface of kidney is convex in shape and inner surface of kidney is concave in shape. So this is the convexity This is the concavity. Then the concavity consists of a notch-like structure. The concavity consists of a notch-like structure called as, this one is called as hilum or hilus. Then through the hilum, the renal artery enters into the kidney. Okay, this is the renal artery is entering into kidney. Okay, and through the hilum, the renal vein is coming out of the kidney. So renal vein comes out of kidney. So it is coming out. Then through the hilum, another structure is coming out that is called as ureter. So what are the structures that passes through the hilum? Means renal vein, renal artery, and ureter. So the outer surface of kidney is convex and inner surface of kidney is concavity. Concavity consists of a notch called as hilum. Through the hilum, the renal artery, renal vein, and ureters are passing. Then if you see the kidneys are having 3 layers. Okay, what are the 3 layers? Means the outer surface of kidney is called as outer fibrous capsule is present, right? Then let us go from the inner layers, then we can easily understand that. So renal capsule, that is the inner fibrous connective tissue. Okay, inner fibrous connective tissue is called as renal capsule. And in between after the renal capsule, there is a adipose capsule. This adipose capsule is the middle adipose connective tissue. And after that, renal fascia. Renal fascia is the fibrous connective tissue. So this one is the inner fibrous connective tissue. This one is the adipose connective tissue. And this one is the outer fibrous connective tissue. So 3 layers are present. All these 3 layers together form the renal capsule. Then we see the vertical section of kidney. The vertical section of kidney divided into outer cortex. This one is the cortex region. Yeah. And inner medulla. Inner medulla is the red color things are the medulla. So if you see the inner medulla is represented in the form of conical structures. The conical structures are called as renal pyramids. Okay. Renal pyramids. These renal pyramids are opening into cup-shaped structures. These cup-shaped structures are calyces. We call them as calyces. Calyces are 2 types, minor calyces and major calyces. Okay. These calyces are opening into a funnel-shaped structure called as pelvis. Okay. And the pelvis opens into ureter. Pelvis opens into ureter. Then the cortex project in between the renal pyramids. These are the yellow lines I'm writing. I'm representing with yellow lines here. The cortex is projecting into the medulla in between renal pyramids as columns of Bertini. Very, very important one. Columns of Bertini. Then the tip of the renal pyramid. The tip of renal pyramid is called as a renal papillae. Okay, this is the renal papillae. So the renal papillae are opening into the calyces. Remember that one. The renal papillae are opening into the calyces, right? Then let us see the ureters. Ureters are one pair, arise from the pelvis of kidney and opens into the urinary bladder. So you can see here, these are the renal ureters. Ureters are arising from the pelvis of kidney and opens into the urinary bladder. So this is the urinary bladder. I'll explain what is meant by trigone in the next slide. So let us see the urinary bladder. So urinary bladder is one position in pelvic region, and the urinary bladder is internally lined by transitional epithelium. So the urinary bladder also consists of muscles. The muscles in the urinary bladders are called as smooth muscles. The name given for the muscles in the urinary bladder are called as detrusor muscles. So the area between opening of the 3 tubes, that means 2 ureters and 1 urethra, is called as trigone. In the previous slide, you have seen the trigone diagram. So urinary bladder is useful to store the urine temporarily. Then what is the urethra? Urethra is the neck of urinary bladder that opens into the, it is the neck of urinary bladder. The neck of the urinary bladder opens into the urethra. In females, the urethra is short, that is 2 to 4 centimeters and release only urine. In males, the urethra acts as urinogenital duct. So in males, the urethra releases both urine and semen. So let us see the nephron. What are nephrons means? Each kidney consists of 10 to 15 lakhs of nephrons. So nephrons are the structural and functional units of kidney. Okay, nephrons are the structural and functional units of kidney. So number means 1 million in each kidney, that is 10 to 15 lakhs. And nephrons are two types. One is cortical nephron and one is juxtamedullary nephron. Let us see the cortical nephron. So this one is the cortex of the kidney. Okay, and this one is the renal pyramid. That means renal pyramid means nothing but it is the medulla. Okay, if you see the renal capsule, nothing but it is the Malpighian body and Bowman's capsule. If you see the renal capsule is present in the outer cortex. So this is the outer cortex. So it is present in the outer cortex. And if we take the Henle's loop is very short. Okay, and there is no vasa recta. Vasa recta is also absent. So what is the percentage of cortical nephrons? Means 80 to 85%. Then if we see the juxtamedullary nephrons, the renal capsule is inner cortex. It is very close to the medulla. It is in the inner cortex and very close to the medulla. And if you see the loop of Henle is very long and extends deep into the medulla. And if you see the vasa recta is well developed. So this is the vasa recta. The vasa recta is the network of blood capillaries present around the loop of Henle. They are well developed. And what is the percentage of the juxtamedullary nephrons? Means 15 to 20% nephrons are juxtamedullary. Now let's go for the next one, structure of nephron. So nephron consists of glomerulus, renal tubule. If you take the renal tubule, in the renal tubule is classified into, the renal tubule consists of 4 parts. One is the Bowman's capsule, proximal convoluted tubule, loop of Henle, and DCT. Then if you take the loop of Henle, in the loop of Henle, there are 2 limbs. One is descending limb and one is ascending limb. Right, this one is the Bowman's capsule. So if you see here the Bowman's capsule consists of 2 layers, inner layer and outer layer. I'll explain that one in the next slide. And this one is after Bowman's capsule. This one is the proximal convoluted tubule. And from proximal convoluted tubule, it is the loop of Henle. Loop of Henle contains 2 limbs. One is descending limb and one is ascending limb. Ascending limb opens into distal convoluted tubule and distal convoluted tubule open into the collecting duct. Right, let us see the Bowman's capsule. If you take the Bowman's capsule is double layered cup-like structure. It looks like a cup. It consists of 2 layers. Okay, from where it is formed means the anterior part of renal tubule, or we can say that the proximal part of renal tubule is formed into the Bowman's capsule. Okay, so it consists of 2 layers. The outer layer is called as parietal layer. Parietal layer is lined by simple squamous epithelium, and inner layer is called as visceral layer. This is the visceral layer. This visceral layer is also lined by simple squamous epithelium, but they are called as podocytes. Podocytes means foot-shaped cells. Right? So in between the podocytes, there are slit openings. We'll see that one in the filtration membrane. Next one is glomerulus. What is glomerulus? Glomerulus means the network of blood capillaries present in the Bowman's capsule. So this is the network of blood capillaries present in the Bowman's capsule. How this network of blood capillaries are present, are formed in the Bowman's capsule means that it is due to efferent artery. The efferent artery enters into the Bowman's capsule and divides into network of blood capillaries called as glomerulus. Okay. The efferent artery brings the blood into the glomerulus, and from the glomerulus, the blood is pumped outside through the efferent artery. Okay, then you know that the blood always flows with some pressure. Okay, the pressure present in the pressure of the blood present in the glomerulus is called as glomerular hydrostatic pressure. The glomerular hydrostatic pressure is 60 millimoles per mercury. Okay. Now let us go for the next one, filtration membrane. Filtration membrane is useful for glomerular filtration. So the filtration membrane consists of 3 layers. What are those 3 layers? Means first one is endothelium. That means the simple squamous epithelium of the glomerulus. The simple squamous epithelium of glomerulus is called as endothelium. After that, basement membrane. You all know that epithelial cells arises from the basement membrane. And third one is simple squamous epithelium of the Bowman's capsule, that is the visceral layer called as podocytes, right? So the endothelium of the glomerulus contains fenestrations. Fenestrations means nothing but small pores. So you can see the gap in the red lines here. So I have drawn the red lines here. In between these red lines, I have left on gap. The small gaps are called as fenestrations. Nothing but they are the holes. Then the middle green one is the basement membrane. The basement membrane is also having the holes. Okay. Then after that, the podocytes of Bowman's capsule. The podocytes of Bowman's capsule is also having slit pores or filtration slits. Okay. So all these pores are corresponding with each other, through which the blood is filtered from the glomerulus. Okay. So the glomerulus plus Bowman's capsule together called as Malphizian body, right? So this completes about the glomerulus. Now let us go for the next part.